Hello and welcome to Fashion Bites. I'm Ellen Byerrum, author of the screwball noir Crime of Fashion Mysteries, featuring Lacey Smithsonian, a fashion reporter in Washington, D.C., the city that fashion forgot. She solves crimes with fashion clues and gets a little help from her friends. When I write my mysteries, I want to feel that no matter how out there the plot or the characters are, that some of it is grounded in reality. I like to walk where my characters walk and experience the sights and sounds and aromas they do. Today, with a little help from some videos and photographs, I invite you to take another view of Lacey's life and environment. This time, her work environment. A few weeks ago, Bob and I were in Washington, D.C. and visited some familiar locations that pop up now again in my mysteries. And at the moment, we're on location in our backyard to take advantage of the lovely weather, except that it's raining, and the roses, and get the feeling of the great outdoors. I hope you enjoy it, along with the occasional bird chirping and thunder sounding. In last week's video, we went to Alexandria, Virginia, the Torpedo Factory, Dyke Marsh, and Huntley Meadows. Today, we're sticking to inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C. I'll be giving you a brief description of the photos and footage and reading brief parts from several of the books. First, a note on Washington, D.C. The city's footprint was designed by military engineer Pierre L'Enfant, who was born in France and served in the American Revolutionary War. Many people like to hate L'Enfant because of his green squares and circles that create angles that make driving and getting around the city challenging. But that's much of D.C.'s charms, particularly if you're on foot. Now let's take a brief trip to Washington, D.C. Imagine you're on the metro heading to Lacey's subway stop at Farragut West. She spends most of her workdays at the I Street Observer. At the top of the stairs of the metro, you are just steps away from the I's offices. Here are some descriptions of Farragut Square from both Killer Hair and Grave Apparel. The I Street Observer was located on I Street in a granite and glass building facing Farragut Square under the ever-watchful eye of Admiral David, damn the torpedoes, Farragut, in all his bronze glory. Farragut Square was a block of neat green park with diagonal walkways converging on the statue of Admiral Farragut at its center. White Christmas lights were twinkling at the entrance of the Army and Navy Club facing the park on the east side. Lacey assumed from the stream of formally dressed couples passing through the square that the very elegant club was the scene of a Christmas party that night. There was another population in the square in striking contrast to the fancy dress partygoers. Homeless people claimed the park's benches at dusk to store their meager belongings for the night. Several of them seemed to live in makeshift lean-tos attached to the benches. Other crowds were heading for the escalator down to the metro station on the I's corner opposite the square. The sidewalk was a bustle of commuters on their way home or to shop or to meet friends at a happy hour at a neighborhood bar. Farragut Square is also the site where, in Designer Knockoff, Lacey meets Damon Newhouse, who runs the deadfed.com website, and where Brooke and Damon meet, defying the pheromone jammers that keep men and women apart. It's a straight walk from Farragut Square up Connecticut Avenue to the Dupont Circle area, where Lacey's friend Stella Lake works as a stylist. But before you head up there, you might want to pick up a cup of good coffee at Firehook Bakery, located on the west side of the square. There are lots of distractions and restaurants on the way up Connecticut Avenue. You can see the entry to Dupont Circle Metro Station, and you might be tempted to buy a hot donut, where Harlan Wiedemeyer frequently buys his treats at the small Krispy Kreme next to the subway stop. You'll also pass Kramer Books and afterwards a bookstore and cafe with additional temptations. There are numerous salons on Connecticut Avenue. Imagine that Stylettos, where Stella works, is just one more. Of course, Stylettos is more fun and has the best gossip, courtesy of the Stella Broadcasting Network, the voice of Dupont Circle. Stylettos appears in many of the books. These excerpts come from Killer Hair. Stylettos was about 10 blocks from the office, a short cab ride or a nice walk. Lacey decided to walk, but she did a double take when she got there. The familiar lilac interior was freshly painted over in cream with white trim. The stations had been moved around, and now everyone was in a new location. New black and white posters adorned the walls, and a glass brick partition divided the reception area from the stylist stations. "Makeover for the salon. Looks good, doesn't it?" The lilac was definitely passé, Stella said. "But where's Angie's station?" Lacey asked. "I don't see it." Stella looked at her as if she was an idiot. "Well, no one was going to use it. Geez, you can't expect that. Not after Angie died there, Lacey, for God's sakes." The actual circle of Dupont Circle, with its stately fountain in the center, is also a crime scene in hostile makeover. In this scene, Amanda Manville is a temperamental model having a screaming fit with Stella while Lacey and her boyfriend, Vic Donovan, look on. Amanda was a vision of shrieking loveliness, wearing a long, dark red pan velvet evening gown. It was a Christmas fantasy of a dress, featuring a hood trimmed in white faux fur. Deep, wide cuffs on the bell sleeves were also trimmed in white fur. Against the autumnal parkscape of the circle, it would paint a serene picture for her premier winter catalog and play up the fantasies that encourage women to buy those perfect dresses they never wear. It was quite a tableau. Amanda pointing and screeching, Stella gesturing wildly, terrorized underlings scurrying everywhere when suddenly 3 loud pops rang out. It sounded like a car backfiring, but much louder. At first, Lacey didn't realize what it was, but Vic knew. Before the second shot was fired, Vic threw Lacey to the ground beside the fountain and covered her body with his. Now, not far away from the circle is a location that helped inspire part of the theatrical storyline in the Masque of the Red Dress. There are a variety of theaters and theater groups that inspired me, as well as my own background as a playwright. I was involved in theater in Washington, D.C., and this book was a way to relive those days. Here's a description of the theater from The Masque of the Red Dress. Kinetic Theater occupied an old building just off 16th Street Northwest, near Dupont Circle, where it had resided for several years. The 2-centuries-old red brick building had served many purposes. Once a church, later a warehouse and a nightclub, it had found its mission as a theater for various troupes for at least the past half-century. The edifice harmonized with the rest of the block's old-fashioned apartment buildings and townhouses. Miraculously, it had not been scooped up by developers, scraped, or turned into a jutting high-rise of overpriced condominiums. Lacey opened the door and felt a welcome blast of chilled air. Though the building was old, the renovated lobby had the smell of fresh wood and paint. I hope you can see how locations inspire me. My crime of fashion stories need the feel of real settings. And now you can get back on the metro with the rest of the city and the commuters and the kids and head home. I hope you enjoyed this small tour of locations in my books. That's all I have for now. If you want to know more about me or my books, check out my website at ellenbyerrum.com. If you like this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to this channel. It's free and easy, and all you have to do is hit the subscriber button. And that way you won't miss any videos. And please feel free to share this with your friends. Have a laugh. This isn't a secret society. I'll see you next time. Bye.